Com. And this past Monday, the 127th installment of the Boston Marathon took place in Boston. They had nearly 30,000 athletes featured over more than 100 countries. And I know of at least 3 out of Mississippi who took to the start line and saw their way to the finish line. And one is joining us today, Daniel Sullivan. He is a Boston Marathoner finish, and he is there in the Pine Belt area. And yeah, welcome and congratulations, Daniel.
Thank you very much, Rebecca. I appreciate that.
So I caught wind of your story because Luke Johnson, host of our Eagle Hour that came on before Good Things, obviously was following your way. Now folks can follow runners from the comfort of their own home while y'all are out there suffering in the miles. And I found it super encouraging and interesting. So where are you? Are you in Hattiesburg or Laurel? Where's home for you?
I am in Laurel. I'm a few minutes away from West Jones High School.
And you work on staff there with Luke Johnson and obviously at his church, and then find time to run in your spare time, I'm sure. So when did you start running? Because the Boston Marathon is like, the Super Bowl for, you would say, weekend warriors in terms of running.
Sure, right. I casually ran when I was in college. I played tennis at Jones. But I didn't really start, I guess you'd call it training, but taking it more seriously until about 2.5 years ago or so. So for the past 2 years, I have run every single day at least one single mile, but most of the time more than that.
Was that like an intentional decision that you just wanted to see if you could go a year in getting a mile in every day? And are they all ran, or do you walk in a really long parking lot and count that as a mile?
I have a friend named Blake who has been what they call streak running. That means, running every single day. He's been doing it. He's coming on 7 years. And so he happened to talk me into it, trying to do it just for the challenge of it. And it is, I don't know what the technical difference between running, jogging, or walking would be as far as a minute per mile pace or anything like that, but it's always been at least a mile running.
Well, that's pretty impressive. Well, you went 26.2 this past Monday. When was your first marathon? Because you have to have had to do at least one, because there's the qualification to get into the Boston Marathon, which is on so many runners' bucket lists or something they're aiming to achieve. So when was your first one?
Right. I have been very blessed to have said this was only my second marathon. My first one was in December of 2021. It was the Mississippi Gulf Coast Marathon.
And you ran that in what?
That one I ran at 2:54, so 2 hours and 54 minutes.
That's 26.2 miles. What pace was that? I know you know.
It was around 6:40, 6 minutes and 40 seconds a mile.
Do you know what you had to make to get in? Because your age group there for Boston?
For my specific age group, the qualifying time was 3 hours on the dot. Now, with that being said, in years past, Boston has had so many people hit that qualifying time that they ended up having to put in like a buffer time, if you would, and that would be only the fastest people out of that. And so in years past, that buffer time has been anywhere from 5 to 7 minutes underneath the qualifying time. So I really thought my goal was 2:55 because I thought 5 minutes under the qualifying time would be a relatively safe spot to be in.
So you knew going into the Gulf Coast Marathon that if you made it, you are wanting to make it to Boston. So what was it like knowing you made that accomplishment and you were going to have to book the plane tickets?
It was pretty incredible. I will say there was a waiting after you qualify and you apply for the spot to Boston. There is a certain amount of waiting that you have to do to hear back from them, just because I assume all of the logistics and however many people apply and so on and so forth on their end, that you have to wait on them to tell you whether or not you were accepted. And so that part was pretty nerve-wracking in that I knew that I had a good time. I just didn't know if it was good enough based on what the buffer time underneath the qualifier would actually be. But once I got that news that I had been accepted, it was butterflies for a little while, and then it was time to buckle down and start training hard.
Well, this is a special race. I mean, it's the 127th Boston Marathon. This year was particularly special because it was the 10th anniversary of the unfortunate bombings that happened there that we all remember, the infamous bombings, you could say it that way. So what was it like once you got to Boston? What's the sort of feel in the air? I know everybody walking around is fit and drinking their water and eating their carbs, but what's sort of the spirit of Boston like once you get there on race weekend?
We got there somewhere in the middle of the week last week, which was really nice. We had enough time set aside to be there a little bit earlier. And as the days went on, the energy was tangible almost. You could feel the energy in the city growing more and more. And granted, some of that was the runners coming in, obviously, but I really think that the city itself kind of they celebrate what the Boston Marathon is. It's very prestigious, and the city itself really rallies around the runners like I haven't experienced in any other sport. And so the energy was high. You could tell that people were very excited and really looking forward to being a part of what was going to happen on that Marathon Monday.
So what'd you eat for breakfast on Monday morning? What'd you have pre-run?
Well, they say nothing new on race day, and I am a creature of habit. So I had a pack of blueberry Pop-Tarts and a sugar-free Red Bull, which is probably not, peak athleticism as far as counting carbs and your macros, but it is what I have eaten most days before big, long runs, just because it's what I'm used to, and I know that it will settle well in my stomach, and I'll be fine with it.
When I was training for my 2 marathons, which you could have ran 4 in the time it took me to run my 2, I always had my mama's spaghetti the night before a long run, so I get that in terms of being consistent. Okay, so what was it like crossing the finish line?
I think there were probably a lot of emotions going through my head, as well as you could probably attest to this. When you're at the end of a marathon, you're almost on autopilot in that you are so tired and everything is, you've used up all your mental and physical resources. But it was special because it was the culmination of 4 months of training. It was the culmination of 2 years of running consistently, and it was the culmination of, for me, a couple hours of hard work on the day. It rained a little bit, and so there was some mental toughness that I had to go through to figure out how I was going to keep one foot going in front of the other without trying to blow up towards the end of it. And then I crossed the line, and there was just a relief as well as kind of a wave of gratitude and just general thankfulness for just the opportunity to get to be a part of something so big and so special.
And you broke your best time. So what was your time there at Boston?
My time on the day was 2 hours and 51 minutes. I told my friends and family going into it that the goal was 2 hours and 50 minutes, but I am ecstatic with 2 hours and 51. I had obviously never run on the course, and if you know anything about the course, there are some pretty major hills from mile 16 to 21, and I didn't really know how I would hold up against those hills. Like I mentioned earlier, the only marathon that I've run so far was on the Gulf Coast, and it's relatively flat until the end of it. So there was a few unknowns as far as what to expect physically and mentally at that point in the race. And it rained a little bit, nothing compared to years past, but there was that as well. But I was ecstatic with hitting 2 hours and 51 minutes. It was there was a huge smile on my face when I saw the finish line.
Please tell me you ate something better than a Pop-Tart when you crossed the finish line.
Oh, I ate everything that they would hand to me. It was funny. I told my son I've got a 5-year-old, and he loves to eat bananas, and I'm okay on bananas, but on the day they were handing out bananas, and I got a hold of one, and I don't know if it was just how cold it was around me or if it was actually as warm as I thought it was. But it was the first time in my life that I ate a warm banana, and I was very, very thankful for having that warm banana.
Well, I thank you for your time, Daniel. Again, congratulations on your success, and we can't wait to hear what you run again. And, yeah, congratulations, bud.
Of course. Thank you for having me, Rebecca.
All righty, you guys stick with us. We got more for you coming up next.